have you ever been in a situation where you have a customer that is initially really interested in your solution, and they set up a meeting with the senior sales director, sales team, and then the meeting is delayed, and then they say, oh, email me in a couple of months, and then that's set up, and then it's postponed, and then it's deferred. And it may be 9 months later, and you think, I'm not sending another email or LinkedIn connection. I'm not doing the same thing again. And for those of you may think that social selling is selling online. And what I'd like to propose to you, that it's not just selling online, it's part of that, but it's also about making sure it's part of your whole sales process. So it's taking offline, online, and online, offline. So it's integrated in your existing sales process. So you'll see here that I found out when their directors' meeting was, and I sent them cupcakes just before the meeting with a very clear message on it. And the cupcakes were absolutely gorgeous, and it's not what they expected at all. And then they emailed me 2 days later saying, oh, Janice, we ate your number. Can you give us it again? So instead of me reaching out to them, they were reaching out to me. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that you engage your audience however way you can. And it's important not to do the same thing all the time, to actually to surprise them, to be a bit more innovative, to use your personality, use your humor. Because after all, B2B is still people to people. So remember, you're always talking to an individual person with whatever you're doing. So I really learnt the power of social media way back in 2006. And this is when I had started a restaurant and bar employing 20 employees. And it's a very competitive industry, like many of the industries that you're in. And I previously worked for an innovation consultancy in customer experience. And I used the skills that I learnt there, email marketing, and it was just at the beginning of Facebook. And every year we won awards. And you may know that you need just a small cohort of influencers, of people that really like you, and they will refer you, and they can be the people that you always go back to for ideas, whatever it may be, whatever industry you're in. So I developed this cohort of really engaged people. And so then they would engage their people as well. So whenever I had an event on, I would galvanize. Whenever I needed votes, all of that, they were our key supporters. But I kept everyone engaged with the email newsletter. Now, we're so used to these things now, but back in 2006, it was relatively new, certainly, using Facebook as well. And so that gave us a real competitive leading edge in a competitive industry. And then in 2008, we all know what happened. And a lot of the restaurants and bars at that time were going out of business, but we continued to grow throughout that time. That was the power of using social in order to keep your audience engaged. So I've since kind of moved on to develop my social capital. And, as you've heard, 2007 top business global influencer. Now, what I'd like you to do is really look at your social footprint, because we all have a social footprint, whether you're posting the pictures or whether someone else is. So I would task you to go into Mrs. Google and put your name in and click on the images, because as we know, a picture paints 1,000 words. So think, what's the impression that people will get from you if they were looking at your collage of pictures? Do you even exist? Is it your picture or someone else that has your name? Are you dominating for your name? And that's because it's just kept you posting more and more and more pictures, so that it creates an impression of who you are. And it's got to be a 360. a three-dimensional image of who you are, not just your work. Because people like people with personality that are well-rounded, that have character, that have interests. So it's not just about your product. In fact, it's not about your product at all. It's about you as a person. So this is one thing I'd really like you to do, to have a look and see what impression that is creating. And if not the impression that you want, you can change that. That's completely within your control to actually do that. Create the impression you want your influencers and buyers to have by posting the content that you want them to see. And make sure it's visual. That's so important. And I think that's come out with other talks today. And so 2006, we've seen since then a meteoric rise in digital platforms and social media. But at the same time, we've seen there's a reduction in trust and brand loyalty. Who trusts the big banks and even big companies? And many of you work for big companies. We don't. And this is why your personality is really important. People trust people first. If they trust you as a person, they trust your product. And then the company comes in. Even Google, it's the people that we engage with. So this is what you need to lead with. You think of thought leaders and experts. You're all experts here. Even when you move to another company as a thought leader and expert, you're still a thought leader and expert, aren't you? Whatever company you work with. And so it's really important for you to lead your expertise, to stand in front with your name or your strap line of what you stand for, who you are, so that people can engage with that. So I've heard people say that, I've done social selling and it didn't work. I've heard that quite a lot. And my question, if that's what you may be thinking, I've done it, I've not really had any impact. If you're thinking that, my question to you would be, what was your one goal? Not your 5 goals, your one goal, so you can develop a clear strategy around achieving that one goal. And looking at what you're doing, what you're posting, how you're posting it, what platforms and what tools you're using to post, and also how consistent you are with that as well. I have a strapline, the Key Account Sales Strategist. So I put that with a lot of the postings that I have. That's my expertise status. I would suggest that you do the same as well. So you have a label that's attached to your name. It tells people what you're about and what to expect from you. And it also gives you some parameters of what you will be personally posting, even when you work for a company, your area of interest and expertise. So social selling, it's really important to understand it's you, not your company, but it's you that are posting. It's you that you're creating an image around, but it's a 360, it's a relevant image. It's relevant to your customers because that's your expertise and that's what you're talking about, but it's relevant and very much attached to you as the expert and thought leader. And here is why it's really, really important. Social sellers influence 92% of buying, 92% of buying decisions. It's massive, absolutely massive. 31% of sellers, social sellers, say that it has helped them to deepen the relationships. And if you have deep relationships, you've got that cohort of people that are willing to recommend you and certainly trust you enough to buy from you as well. So really key there. And then social sellers attract 45% more opportunities. And I'm going to give you 4 strategies, some strategies that are going to help you to attract more of those opportunities. Now, don't just think that these are strategies to engage your prospective buyers. This is also your existing customers, so that you remain at the forefront of their mind for when they're ready to buy, when it's relevant to them. So imagine it's almost like little breadcrumbs that you're leaving in the content that you're posting and the image that you're creating, so that they do not forget who you are and what you're about and what you can do for them, which is most important. So, it's 10 times more successful in bringing in the revenue to your existing relationships. So certainly don't forget about them. And then 80% of B2B leads come from LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn did that research, but you know, a lot of B2B sellers are using LinkedIn. But I would also say that use it with other platforms as well, and that's where you get the biggest impact. Now, social selling is having a conversation online. It's building relevant relationships. It's deepening those relevant relationships. It's posting content, images, videos, like the breadcrumbs, like the little bite-sized bits of content that will lead them into deeper relationships and more in-depth content. That's what you're doing. You're just imagine it as leaving little breadcrumbs for people. So they think, oh, that's really interesting, because it's got to draw them in and engage them. But what social selling is not, it is not pushing marketing. It's not pushing your business card offline or online. It is not selling at all, so it's really deceiving in the word. Social selling is not selling. How do you make that out? It is not selling. It is building a relationship with your prospective buyers and influencers and stakeholders. That's what it is. So it's not broadcasting who you are and you know what you sell. It's building a relationship. Now, I see social selling very much like I want the buyer influencer to recommend me. I'm not thinking about them buying my product. I'm thinking about them recommending me. And it stops us from jumping ahead of ourselves into the sales process. It makes us kind of like relax a bit more, spend a bit more time to develop a deeper relationship. If I'm thinking I want them to recommend me, they become my biggest advocates. I can ask things from them when I know that I've built that trusted relationships. So this is what I'd like you to do, is not think about it as an opportunity to sell. This is not about selling. It's an opportunity to build relationships, but the kind of relationships you really want are from the people that are willing to recommend you. You think about when you're recommending someone, you absolutely trust them because you're putting your reputation on the line. It's a deep relationship built on trust. And of course they're going to buy from you. If it's relevant, of course they're going to buy from you. But the fact that they're recommending you to other people within their circle, well, that's where you really grow. That's where you really grow. When you become a center of influence, that someone is willing to recommend you to their circle of influence, that's what you really want to aim for. So, let's talk about etiquette here in social selling, because you know there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that they connect with you and then they sell to you, right? They don't understand the etiquette. And what I say is, do unto others as you would have done to you. That's, if it doesn't feel right, don't send it, you know? If it doesn't feel right to you, and each person's going to have a different level of comfort with it. Some people don't like doing videos, being in front of videos. All of that is okay. As you invest more in social media and posting social, you're going to get more comfortable with it. But do what feels right to you. So what you would post, just use that as your safety check. If it doesn't feel right, don't send it. Don't do it. It doesn't matter what companies are telling you. This is your reputation, okay? So that's the only thing I'd say about etiquette. Now, we're being social here. So this is your choice, if you'd like, to get out your phones. And if you take up any picture, a picture that's really engaging, someone will win my book, Business Evolution, Creating Growth in a Rapidly Changing World. Now, I would like you, if you put it on Twitter or LinkedIn, and you've got my Janice BG Twitter and Janice B Gordon LinkedIn, make sure you put the hashtag, and you'll have the reminder at the bottom of some of these slides of the hashtag, which is not women, but WIN Sales Summit. I wrote that wrong. WIN Sales Summit, and hashtag scale your sales, so I can find your tweets. Now, Pira, my friend, Pira, who works for me, she's always taking these pictures trying to win the book. But I've told her she cannot win the book. She can choose the winner of the book, but she can't win the book. She's always taking these pictures. So please do. I want you to draw me in. Remember that picture here. It draws people in. If you can take those types of pictures. So draw us in, not only with your visuals and your video, but also with your text as well that you put with those pictures. Draw people in. Be humorous. You know, go on. I'm fed up of people connecting with me on LinkedIn that's never read my profile and trying to sell me things that I might sell. Have you had that as well? We spend a lot of time investing in our social capital, in our profiles and the pictures that we post. For heaven's sake, read it before you then start to connect. That's all you want, but you must do it as well. Read their profile and connect. Okay, so there are a lot of social profiles, platforms, and the reason why I'm putting this is just to remind you not to use them all, but actually to use them in combinations. Twitter is a great listening tool. And so I often listen to what my customers, my buyers, I have them on list, and then go on to LinkedIn and post. Or it may be something personal, that they've ran a marathon, and I then go on to LinkedIn, because I found that on another platform, and say, oh, you know, it's really great what you've done, run. Is there any way that I can contribute to your charity that you're running for? And they think, oh my God, that's great. They're listening to me. It's personal, but it's building that personal relationship. And that's what you want in business. So here are the 4 strategies really quick. The first one, personal leads to professional. So put your personality into what you're posting. And if you think about it, Elon Musk has 3 times as many Twitter followers as a personal brand than he does with his 3 other companies, Solar City, SpaceX, and Tesla. The same is for Richard Branson, look at him, isn't he gorgeous? And Adriana Huffington, who's huge. They have more personal Twitter followers. What's that telling us? Gary Vaynerchuk and VaynerMedia, they use their personal profiles to draw people into their product and their company. And this is what you must be doing yourself. It doesn't matter how big your company is. People engage with people. So think about, am I using my personal brand, my personal personality to engage people, to find me that can lead to my professional life? The second one is get found. Now, I don't know about you, there's 2 ways to get leads. One is to be found, and the next is to find them. Now, which one do you prefer? I prefer to be found, don't you? Because if people find me, they find me for what I want them to find me for. They're already engaged with me. They know they're in the right place. I've now shortened that sales cycle. So you've really got to invest in being found. And remember, I talked about those 5 key words that are descriptors so people know they're in the right place. Decide on what they are. So think about, what do your customers search for in order to find you? Are they your keywords and your hashtags? Is this how they can find you? You know, is what they find, does it clearly tell your customers what you do for them? You know, what results you create for them? Does it clearly tell them that? So invest, rather than being selling, invest in being found. Most people forget about this. You want your customers to find you because 100% of your customers are online, they're searching, but they're searching for differentiators. So don't be like everyone else. Find out what your differentiator is and start promoting that. So the third one is engage. Engagement is about having a 2-way conversation. And the way the analytics measure this is not by a like, is not by a share anymore. It's actually by a comment. So what you're posting, is it helping your customers to comment? Is it ask them a question? Are you sharing experience, a case study? Are you using video, great pictures? All of these things, remember I said about drawing people in. You know, if you're sharing an interesting story, that draws them in and wants them to comment. Are you asking them enough questions? Are you posting it where it's relevant to them, whether it's seasonal, all of that? What you want is to have a ping pong match with people, and that means that, you know, you're having 2-way conversations. So online is no different to offline, but you need to engage in that process. And then this is just a quick example of using your personality. So I spoke to Alison, Alice spoke to lead partner Richard. Richard sent the standard LinkedIn connection. I never use it. I would advise you not to use it. But when people do, go back with a bit of personality. So I said, I'm extremely disappointed that you've beaten me to the connection, but I'm extremely impressed with you, Richard. You know, and he obviously smiled at that and came back within half an hour, really busy person, saying, it's nice to know I'm ahead of the game for once, blah, 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 about working together. So I came back and said, still impressed. If you can make someone smile, even virtually, you become memorable. So use your personality. Don't just use the standard formats. The fourth one is content. You know, thinking about what I said about having a conversation. Imagine that person's in front of you. Use the same kind of language. Use other platforms to find out what's going on and then bring it back onto LinkedIn. Also, we heard earlier about cold calling. Mix it up. It doesn't have to be all online. Mix it up. Do you know you can send video connections now on LinkedIn? You know, so start using, and we had a presentation before about technology. Start using the technology and just do the usual thing. They have 200 emails a day. How's yours going to get through? You've got to be a bit more imaginative. So bite-sized contacts. Think of little trails of breadcrumbs to lead them where you want to go. But it's got to be engaging. So use all of these things at your disposal. Don't just be regular. You're not regular. You're uniquely different. Do not be left on the shelf because your industry is changing. The sales industry is not what it used to be. So we have to be clever about this. And what's the key thing that you have all got that you can use? Your personality, your personal brand. Because you know people engage with you, so use that. And use that through social selling to build up your profile. Do not be left on the shelf or out cold. You know, I do bespoke programs for companies, so it's very much based on the character, what you enjoy doing, because then you're going to do it consistently. You might like video marketing, you might like text marketing, you might like images, you might like LinkedIn, you might like Twitter. Your customers, all of them are online. It's actually finding what you enjoy doing and doing it consistently. So, just a run through of the takeaway. So how many of you are thinking that your brand is brilliant and it's really engaging and, you know, I don't need to do anything? No, none of you. Right, so just make sure that you use your personality. Get found. Okay, we're doing all this stuff for them to find us, but what about being found? Are you investing in keywords and hashtag and really understanding what people are looking for you for so you can be found? And when you're found, they know they're in the right place. Engaging, you know, how engaging are you? Putting your personality into your business and being really clever with the content. And then developing a strategy, making sure you decide on there's one thing that you want to achieve out of this, and then it's easy to work backwards and, you know, make sure you've got the right strategy and you're doing it consistently because you love to do it. And the bonus is follow up on the follow up on the follow up. We know that, you know, as sales professionals, we don't follow up enough. It's really difficult. But if you're using mixed media, it's a lot easier to do, leaving all those breadcrumbs. The follow-up doesn't have to be another phone call, another answer phone message, all of those things. It can be a mix of different things. One's on Twitter, one's on LinkedIn, one's a video, all of this. It makes it so much more exciting. So be more adventurous and engaging with it. So I started with Cupcakes. And I just wanted to say, you know, with that example, it wasn't all online. But it got me the meeting, and it got the conversation going when I was in the meeting. They were expecting me to bring cupcakes again. So this started with face-to-face, and then it went to LinkedIn and emails, and I thought, I'm not sending another email. And then it went, you know, into cupcakes. After all, who doesn't like a good cupcake? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice.